you all for joining us tonight for the RCMP Town Hall. Thank you to those online as well. We have Staff Sergeant Delisle, who's going to be speaking with us here in a few moments, talk about crime in the community, review some statistics, and the most important part is to hear your feedback and your concerns. I know there's a lot of concern about crime in the community right now, and right now this is an opportunity for you to inform the Staff Sergeant as he develops his community policing plan for the upcoming year. We also have Citizens on Patrol President Julie Vanderhoek with us today, talk a little bit about that program, and she'll review what that's all about. And we also have Jim Desatel, who's our peace officer here in town. So if you have any municipal bylaw concerns, Jim, if you want to raise your hand, you can speak to him and he'd be happy to answer any questions that you may have as well. Joining us here today, we also have Councillor Peter Taylor, if you want to raise your hand, Councillor Jean Chouinard, Councillor Crystal Byer is here as well, and I think that's all we have here from Council. So thank you all for being here today. So we'll start with Ms. Vanderhoek, if you want to talk a little bit about the Citizens on Patrol program.
Hi, everybody. My name is Julie, as Mayor Zahara said to you. I've been president of Citizens on Patrol since 2019. I only started in 2014, so I'm still kind of new at this. What we are is just a group that is out and about trying to be an extra set of eyes and ears for the RCMP. They can't be out in all the different areas all the time. So we are out there just trying to catch some stuff. Some nights we just count how many cats we see, you know, watch the moose cross carefully on the sidewalks. And, you know, sometimes that's our night. We are watching for impaired drivers. A lot of times we're watching now for vehicles that are parked in the hotels, motels, parkland, school area. We're watching for people that aren't supposed to be there. They look a little shady. We're watching for, especially with the vehicles in the hotels and motels right now, because they're so full. We're watching to make sure the people that are walking around them aren't trying to break into the vehicles. The guys and gals that are driving those trucks and vehicles are working long hours, and we want to give them as much support as we can. We often will be watching the people leaving the bars, and sometimes they'll be walking in the middle of the highway or down the sidewalk of the highway, and often we will just kind of keep circling around so they're not upset or concerned about us. But we want to make sure that they make it onto one of the smaller roads safely. You know, quite often they don't have any idea where they really are. We patrol the dealerships and the different businesses. Quite often, I will go to a business and let them know, hey, you'll see this vehicle on your security cameras, and this is that is us. We are just checking to make sure there's nobody wandering through your driveway or, you know, trying to take the barbecue off the back deck of the one business we go to often. Some of the things that we have caught, for those of you who have lived in town for a while, we had one really strange night with I think it was 5 fires in one night. And we ended up actually catching the beginning of one. We sometimes will be traffic control for the area when there are things that they need extra hands for. We work directly with the RCMP. We take pride in doing what we are supposed to be doing. We're citizens. We are not. We're not police, so we can't take the extra, you know, whatevers that they would be able to. You know, speed limits are important. We have called in, we have found missing persons, we have found stolen vehicles, we've found many impaired drivers, including semi-drivers, which really scare me to death. We patrol during the fair, make sure that nobody rides the strawberry that's not supposed to be on the strawberry. Sometimes we have just a lot of fun. You have to have a pretty decent sense of humor being out there. If anybody sees anything that looks a little shady, or if somebody's checking things that you know are not supposed to be there, call the non-emergency number for the RCMP. Don't just post it on Facebook. Please let them know so they have an idea of what's going on, and then they'll give us some directives to go out and help if we can. Thank you for your time.
All right, thank you very much, Julie. Staff Sergeant Delisle has been with the RCMP for how many years? How many? 21 years. He worked at various detachments. He was at K Division for a while, has been in our community for about a year and a half. And if you would please welcome Staff Sergeant Delisle and share your comments and concerns with him this evening. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor. Welcome, everybody. Thank you for coming tonight. I just want to point out we're about 33. That's a very good turnout. I used to do these in other detachment, and when I get 15, I have a good crowd. So we're 32. Thank you very much. So yes, I'm Christian Delisle. I'm the staff sergeant here at the detachment. Been here a year and a half. Very nice community. Edson, very engaged, hardworking community. People that are concerned about what's going on. Proof, I have 33 people here that wants to talk about policing and policing issues. So I really appreciate that. Tonight, my focus will be on the town of Edson. I have some stats for the county, but I'm planning on doing a couple of presentations like this in the county in January. So I will be focusing more on the town of Edson, but I can also answer questions in regards to the county for sure. Tonight, the focus of this evening is to really hear your feedback. I want to know how we're doing. Are we doing a good job? Are we not doing a good job? It's time to tell me. I'm like the tough questions, please. I want to hear them. I'm here to answer them. I might not have the answer for every single one of them, but for sure I will get back to you. We'll try to find the answer. But you know, if there's some things that we need to improve and work on, absolutely. So before we start into the question part, I can certainly talk about the stats quickly for the town of Edson. So overall, the statistics from January to October, I don't have anything from November yet, they're not out. We're looking at overall a 19% decrease on what we call persons crime, so assaults, threats, things like this. About a 16% overall decrease on property crime, and a 34% decrease on any other criminal code offenses. So that's in comparison to last year. So the same years, same time period, 2020, we're about overall a 20% down on the crime. With that being said, there's few things that are on the rise a little bit. One of them, theft of motor vehicles. We see about an increase of about 54%, and theft over 5,000. I want to say we're about 64% increase on those. So these are the stats. So overall, we're doing well. If I want to compare roughly with what we call Western Alberta District, so the province of Alberta is divided in four. You have the certain part, Central, Western, and Eastern. We're part of Western Alberta District. So if I were to compare the statistics with that, with Western Alberta District overall, we're about where we're supposed to be. Because Western Alberta District overall sees a person crime of increase about 1%, property crime down about 18, and other criminal code down about 21. So we're on the average. So what's happening in the community here? So if I go into specific categories. So person crimes, we're doing very well. So if we take, for example, like the main one, assaults. So in 2021, we've seen a change of minus 6% compared to last year. So 6% is, we received so far 117 calls that are for an assault versus 125 last year. If I look at harassment, all right, criminal harassment, we saw a decrease of 6%. So we're at 31 calls for service for harassment versus last year, 33. Other than threats, so 42% decrease. So this year we got so far 40 calls versus last year, same time period, 69. That gives you an idea. Break and enter. Break and enter, we're doing very well. Last year at this time, we had 131 break and enter, right? We have 56 this year. So that was one of our priority. And so far we're doing very well. So we saw a decrease of 57. Theft of motor vehicle. So 54% increase. So in terms of number, you're looking at 57 for this year. Last year, same period, 37. So about 20 more. Just to give you a perspective, I've looked at other community around, and I will not name them because it's not my place to either pump their tires or throw them under the bus. But so communities in Western Alberta District, same kind of size, whatnot. One had a 20% decrease on their motor vehicle theft, okay? But that 20% is going from 98 to 76. So there's still 76 vehicles that were stolen, right? So it's good to hear the statistics, it's good to hear the percentage, but sometimes, you know, there's numbers behind them that also mean something. And then there's another community, to give another example, that is similar in size as well, while they only have 39. So we're kind of in the middle here. Like, we're not at the lowest end, we're not at the top, so we're in the middle. Looking at other years, so for example, this year we're at 57. In 2018, we had 91 stolen for the same time period. All right, in 2019, we had 80. So we're doing not too bad, even though we saw an increase of 47, which I wish was not there. We're still doing not too bad. Same thing with theft over $5,000. We saw an increase of 64%. Well, we went from 11 to 18, so 7 more. Again, if I look at those, you know, the highest we've ever had for the last 5 years was in 2019, and we had 19 cases of theft of over 5,000. If we look at theft under 5,000, we're like down by 3%. But again, just to give you an idea of numbers, so we have 178 calls for service regarding this versus 183. There's still a few calls for service in regards to theft, so it's a bit of a concern, right? Go down again. If we look at mischief to property, so damage, you know, broken window, graffiti, stuff like that, we're down 19%. So we went from 132 cases to 107. So improvement there. That gives us a total overall minus 16% of criminal code offense in terms of property offenses. Any questions so far in regards to those numbers? Yes, please.
How many of those were repeat offenders from all your theft numbers? How many were the same people doing the same type of crime?
So there's twofold to that. The first fold is, let's talk about property crime, how difficult it is to solve property crime. So the clearance rate on property crime is fairly low. And what I'm talking about, clearance rate, is basically the police being able to identify a suspect and being able to lay a charge, all right? So sometimes we know who it is, we just can't prove it, all right? So that's not a clearance rate. But how to actually clear property crime? Right now, I didn't check at those numbers because I couldn't find them for tonight, but property crime in the Edson area, we're probably below 20% of success, which is not a lot. Versus people crime, which is a lot easier to have a clearance rate because, you know, if you get punched in the face, you see the person punched you, right? Like, we don't have to chase down who the bad person is. You tell us who it is, we can go arrest the person. We see, you know, clearance rate upwards to the 80, and I've even seen sometimes 90%. So that's the first fold. So it's hard to tell if it's the same repeated offenders because we don't catch them. When we catch someone, I want to say that for your average petty crime, so stealing a truck, you know, breaking into a shed or something like that, yes, I want to say that we encounter roughly the same people. Yes. So, but there's about another, you know, let's say 80% of property crime that I can't tell you. Could be the same people, I just didn't catch them. It's just, I don't know. Any other questions on that subject or that topic? Yes.
And Christian,
Yeah.
You don't take into consideration all the people that don't phone in because they figure you might not do anything.
Oh, so yes. So that's, again, that's fall into, like, you know, like I can like say this as a joke, you know, like we have we never solve 100% of the case we don't know about, right? I mean, of course, so hence the importance, like Julie mentioned earlier, to call us and let us know what's going on. Absolutely. So yes, we have to factor that in as well.
And you
Yes.
can't solve it unless it's reported.
I cannot, if I don't know about it, there's not much I can do. That's for sure. Yes, yes.
With these repeat offenders, like, there's nothing that the justice system can do, like, deter them from being a repeat offender.
It's difficult. So we try to address the situation. So basically, there's a lot of, so with the repeat offender, we have to have a proactive approach, right? So a few things that we're doing. So pure basic policing. Have some strategic patrolling in areas of town where we know there's more crime, where the probability to catch someone, you know, red-handed is higher than if we were somewhere else. The reality of patrolling basically looked after probably 15%-ish of your criminality in an area. So if we only rely on this, we're missing like about 85%. That's why we really rely on the population. You know, it'd be dark at night, we'll be driving around, people, if they're up to no good, if they see headlights, they leave, they hide. But if you guys are in your house looking through a window and you see something, that's when we need to be called, and then we can act, right? So that's one of the things we can do, patrolling, but it has limitations. We have other strategic approach to this. For example, we're doing one right now. It's called a Warrant Roundup. So we have few people in town here that are repeated offenders, not necessarily, but that are wanted on a warrant. And it's not necessarily like the big offenses. It could be just a little theft, or it could be on a ticket. But what we do is we go after them because now we have a reason to go after them. So we're trying to disrupt their life a little bit. Call them, arrest them, bring them back to the office. Sometimes we can hold them and they go to jail until they go to court. Some other time we have to release them. But at least we make sure they are aware that we are in the area and we know who they are and we're going to be after them. Sometimes we have other units that can come and help us. You know, like there's multiple units, you know, in Edmonton that can come and help us tackle different kind of problems. We utilize that as well. Then partnership with COP, for example, that's another great tool that we have. Julie was talking about some of the success stories. They have a few. And then to prolific offenders themselves, we also have a list at the office, or we know who they are, and we sometimes decide, okay, let's see what so-and-so is doing, and let's go talk to so-and-so, or let's drive by so-and-so's house, let's see what vehicle are there, chicken plates and whatnot, and gathering intelligence to plan our next move. All this has limitations though. You know, it's a free country, and unless you're doing something wrong or we catch you red-handed, right, we can't do anything. We can be in someone's face right up to a certain point. So back to what the digital system could do. Well, unfortunately, it's not my place to say what they can and cannot do. They have their own challenges. Do we find it frustrating sometimes when we catch the same person stealing a motor vehicle, knowing that we released that same person a week ago for stealing a motor vehicle, right? Is it frustrating to catch someone all of a sudden doing a theft at Walmart, and then a week ago we catch that same person in a stolen truck? Yes, it is. Now, can there be some changes done? Probably. That's just a different channel that would address that, right? I'm working as a partnership with the province, with the digital system, so I have to play with the rules that they're setting up. Is there room for improvement? Probably. I mean, I know where you're going with that question, trust me. It's just, in my position, I can't comment too much on it. You see where I'm going with this? All right. So yeah, so back a little bit with property crime. It's a very difficult type of crime to solve, and this is what we're seeing the most here in Edson. So now, how can we tackle this together? Well, we're doing all those proactive, you know, things, patrols, and warrant roundup, and they're fairly successful. But we're also would like to see what we call like participation in the process. And what I'm talking about here is Sometimes we go to call and something happens, something got stolen out of a business or a vehicle got broken into and items were stolen from the vehicle. We attend a call and then the victim does not necessarily want to participate in the process. And where I'm going with this is like, you know, they understand that we might not catch someone, which is possible, but they don't want to either provide a statement or give us maybe a chance to follow up with the investigation. It's their choice. I have no problem with that. But when we don't have that chance to kind of follow up, we don't know what we could come up with. So sometimes even like we know who did the crime, but the victim is not willing to provide a statement. And sometimes there's good reasons, but that's one chance less that we have to, you know, address a problem. So what I'm saying here is if you have a chance, if you're being victimized, the more you're helping us, the more we can help the bigger problem. All right. Same with like you guys will probably heard that all the time, you know, like, oh, vehicle gets stolen. Oh, what was the keys left in there? The person who left the keys in the vehicle is not doing anything wrong by the law, right? Like it's their truck. Yeah, they want to warm it up and they're at their house, you know, like we're not going to blame that person. But now, unfortunately, they made a crime maybe a little bit easier to happen and someone took advantage of that. And so what we're asking here, participation in the process, is if you can, try to prevent a situation where it would be easy for someone to commit a crime. Criminals are lazy. They will pick a truck running that is unlocked with the key inside versus hot wiring one, right? So if we're all together, be a little bit more careful in like, okay, well, shutting our garage doors at night, making sure we don't leave valuables on our property at night, that if we are warming up our vehicles, that the doors are locked so they cannot just go in and run away with it, then we're helping the process. Because remember the clearance rate I mentioned about property crime, 15%? It's not high. Usually when a vehicle gets stolen, we either don't find it or when we find it, it's damaged and it's a couple of days after, but we not often enough find who did the crime. So let's try to prevent instead of trying to, you know, fix it after. So participation in the process. Any questions so far? Okay, we'll start over there. Yes.
So what do you do with the video footage people send?
Yes, so the majority, and I'm talking 99%, we look at them, an email is spread around the detachment. Do you recognize that person? If we do, it's done deal, right? But sometimes we only see half a face, it's blurry and this and that. So there's difficulties with that too. And good point, I was going to mention that a little bit later. Criminals are also getting smarter. Those trail cams at one point were fantastic. We were catching everybody with that. Now they know, so they look for them and they break them or they spray paint on top or they remove them before they do their, but no, we use them absolutely. There was, yes.
Do you think some of these property crimes are caused by addiction through other folks trying to make a livelihood out of that?
Good question. I want to say the smaller thefts. So like the less, like, you know, stealing change from motor vehicles, stealing a chainsaw out of a shed. That's for the most part probably driven by addiction because it's a small items. It's easy to sell. They can flip a few coins and then they can take care of their fix for the day. But when you hear about a break and enter, when they steal the trucks and the 2 quads and you know, clean the house, that's a little different. Maybe there's some addiction issues, actually probably, but now there's a bit of they're looking for a little bigger amount of money here. Like it's a little bit more organized. So right now, yes, what we see, car prowling, shed being broken, stuff like that. Yes, it's addiction that is directly linked to that. Absolutely. Yes.
Do you find that you guys have a lag in your dispatch system?
Was that?
You have a lag in your dispatch system.
There's
I've
one.
had 2 instances where.
There's one. Yeah, there's one. Yeah. Yeah.
My own house. Second time I go to my shop, I call
Yeah.
911. By the time they got on the road, this guy was long gone through town, 100 miles an hour. Surprised he didn't, you know, kill somebody, and that was it.
Yeah, thank you for bringing this up. 100% yes, there is a lag. We're aware of it. We're trying to work on it. It is outside of the Edson detachment control, unfortunately. Was that?
We can tell that.
Yeah, like it's yes. And you know what? I will bring it up because every time we do a town hall like this, your concerns, like I bring them up. like, it's one thing to talk about it, it's one thing to ask you your opinion, but then if at the end of the day, it's okay, thank you, have a good night, what am I doing this for, right? The way it works is basically you call 911, this 911 dispatcher, asks you that, okay, police, ambulance, a fire, police, it goes to police, then there's a call taker, then this goes to a dispatcher, and then dispatcher calls us. There's a bit of a delay there. And then let's say the complaint is in town and we're, a couple of members are like in Pierce. Wow, now add the driving time, like it can happen. No, absolutely. We are aware of this. We're constantly working on trying to reduce that. I know at one point the issue with that was staffing. Extremely hard to find people to do the 911 job. You need to be skilled. You need to be able to be quick on the telephone, quick on the computer. So hard time to find people because it's shift work as well. So, but no, thank you. You know what? I'll make a note because I need to mention that. Yes. I will get right back to you. Yes.
Just one other question. When you're on the phone phoning for RCMP assistance, I've done it a couple times. I feel like I'm being interrogated for calling it in. Like they're asking for my
Yes.
information, my birthday, mine, to find out if I done it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I feel like that 15 minutes of interrogation when I make a phone call.
Yes.
It's not even worth to make a phone call. Is that or is that just to authenticate that we're not just calling it in for fun?
No, you know what? I've heard that before. You're not the first one mentioning this. I can totally see where it's frustrating. Like, come on, like, you're not calling you because I want you to send me a birthday card on my birthday. Like, there's a guy breaking into a shed or something. I get it. I will mention it. Some of the reasons, some of the questions are, I hope so, are linked to what's going on, because what happened is when we get a call, for example, once it's dispatched to us, then we ask the dispatcher, okay, what color was the car? How many occupants? Did they see any weapons? So that's why they ask a few of those questions, is for us to know, so we know how to respond, be a little bit more prepared. I agree that probably your date of birth.
Yeah.
We might like.
Date of birth, all that. I feel like they're just checking me out before we do anything about the call.
I'll be honest with you, it's for the file after. It's because we need to find out who called in, and there's few people with the same name, across the country, and it's to link you on the file. Yes, we could forget that question. I agree. I agree. It's not a perfect system. I understand that. It's not the first time I heard that frustration, and but I will bring it up as well. Like maybe there's a way to expedite the system or the phone calls.
Like, and why would we get attitude? Like, I called in a stolen vehicle, they came and I said, what's going on with that vehicle? Oh, it was stolen from BC. And I'm like, really? Like,
So what do you mean you're getting attitude?
well, when I called 911, I just phoned in and I said, this vehicle's been sitting here all week, and that they were all worried about some other thing, and told me that I was taking up the time.
Really?
Yeah, oh yeah. And so anyway, but they came and it was a stolen vehicle from BC, and I was like, well, I knew it wasn't supposed to be sitting in my yard area, but then you're just like, why would I call again?
I'm really sorry that you had to go through this then. There's no reason to give you attitude. I'll be the first one to say, please call us all the time. If you want to come and see me afterwards and tell me roughly when you call, I can certainly look into this. In my book, that's unacceptable. Oh, yeah. So let's be clear, if you call and you get attitude, if you have an officer going and answering your call for service and you have attitude, your next phone call is to me. That's not happening. We're here to provide a service, and I'm here asking you guys to call me and tell me what's going on. And so, I'm not saying that, we're all perfect all the time and someone can have an off day, but still, I would like to be aware of that. Yeah, no, really sorry you had to deal with that. Yeah. So yeah, there was a question over there. Yes.
So during hours, like 8 hours.
Yeah.
If we call them on emergency line,
Yep.
800 whatever number, is that containment or is that anything?
That goes right to the detachment, right? Yeah, that goes right to us. Yes.
Okay, so with everything unfortunate that's happened on Main Street in the last.
Yep.
while, I work on Main Street. It takes us 40 minutes to get through. Like, when
Really?
we got away from that or whichever, like, how is that protecting us? Like,
So are you saying that, so when did you call that it took you 40 minutes to go through? A year ago? That's unacceptable
I
either.
have the same problem. I saw it and did it myself.
Yeah, I am, yeah.
You know, you got frustrated, and it's not, you're frustrated, you have to walk around completely full time, while these dogs are. so-
Yeah.
But when something like that happens, I mean, you don't feel very safe and then with everything that's happening.
Yeah.
Even more uncomfortable being that, no offense, but it means women are.
I think in those type of scenarios, like.
Yeah, absolutely, Kevin.
Do hang up and dial 911.
Yeah, I would say the same thing.
And you're on hold for 40 minutes and it's a crime in progress, hang up and dial 911.
Yeah, but I mean, it's already last, I don't want to take up 911.
Yeah.
It's time, right? Because there's could be somebody who's actually dying or something. I mean, just maybe.
You should be able to
maybe that would be
get
addressed.
over.
Oh, I 100%. Like it's
Yeah.
so yes and no. The way 911 works is you will never get a busy signal with 911. So, and I don't know the exact number, but let's say there's 9 lines or 10 lines in Edmonton. If they're all full, then your 911 goes somewhere else. So the other 911 dispatch for the province is Red Deer, right? But Yellowhead County also have one. Short Park has one. And I've ever heard stories when like it's so busy, it goes to a different province. So you'll never get a busy signal. So I cannot tell you that it will always go to Edmonton, but rule of thumb, yes. So it goes to Edmonton, yeah.
So, with this murder that happened here.
Yes.
Melissa's not able to be here tonight. But, basically, she's being told now to be December or January, where this guy gets arrested. And to me, that's bullshit.
Sorry, who?
Cordell County.
Yes.
They know who he is. You have a video, you have a clear picture of him going into the store. Arrest him.
Okay.
Get it done.
Yeah.
We're tired of it.
Yeah, I hear you.
At my house, here chickens.
Yeah.
There's no need of that. It's on call for. If you know who he is, arrest him.
Okay. And I agree with you. And what happened on Main Street is extremely unfortunate.
Unfortunate,
Yes.
he's still in town.
And
that's enough.
I agree. I agree.
If they don't arrest him, then maybe he should.
So
Like, this is getting ridiculous.
I understand what you're saying. So first of all, what I'll ask is to trust me on this one. That's the first part. What I will try to explain here is that the reason why it's going this way, it's because we are focused on the result versus just an arrest.
So you're telling me it's okay that this guy very well spend Christmas with his parents, like Cordell will never get to spend Christmas with his kids. I'm sorry, man, that shit don't fly.
I'll be honest with you, I did not say that. I wish we could make an arrest an hour right after 50. I wish it never happened. All right. I wish it never happened. There's a family, like you're saying, that will be missing a loved one forever. This is the worst that can happen. I totally understand that, and I understand your frustrations. What I'm telling you here is the investigation is going well, and we're focused on the results versus a quick action that could maybe jeopardize the outcome of the investigation. That's what's happening right now.
What do you say to everybody here in this town that's working on Main Street, or 7-Eleven or anything like that, or a kid walking home, that this guy's still out on the street, he's still at home down the road from me, mind you, like, it's just ridiculous. And he's not that far from you, because like I know where you live, because you want my buddy's house, and he's not that far from you too. How would you feel if he come out and I don't know if he had small kids or not, or if he had older children, but how would you feel if he took one of their lives while they were visiting?
I would be devastated. If I were to lose a family member, I would be devastated. And I'll be honest with you, I'm devastated that he passed away. I'm heartbroken for that family. I'm heartbroken for that business. I'm heartbroken for this community. Sorry, what's that?
I said he gave him everything he asked for, and that man still shot him.
I understand what you're saying. I understand what you're saying. Sorry, all I'm asking is to trust me. It might be frustrating right now because you're not having the answers, or you're not having, I understand. Correct, I know.
My question is, why did it take nearly 24 hours for your simply to make a statement letting everybody know this man is?
And you see this thing?
Yeah,
We've
so,
been alert for COVID-19, why the hell wasn't there a report back?
and for that, I totally agree as well. I was personally upset. What's that?
Walked away from where it happened, and I got little kids running around, and nobody came door to door saying this guy was, I see the officer by my house, and it's circles. Nobody said, hey, there's murder on the loose, take the kids inside.
So the question is, why did it take 24 hours for you guys to make a statement? Why was something
Okay.
not done earlier?
I'll tell you the why, but I want to tell you first that I disagree a little bit with it. I'm with you. We should have sent something out first. Way quicker. But I'll tell you why. All right. So the reason why is we have to be, it's pretty much the same reason why I cannot talk about the case here right now. It's because everything we disclose, whoever's committing a crime is also listening and watching and then can plan their second move. So we have to be careful at what we're saying. Another piece about this too is, so for in this instance, someone passed away. So we have to make sure that before we disclose something, the family is aware, so it's not a shock. And correct me if I'm wrong, but I think his father is in Ontario, mom in Newfoundland, something like that.
They were.
Yeah, so they had to notify that, to notify them before doing that. Now, that being said, all right, I personally, so the date happened right away. Okay, the guys are running around, we're running everywhere, we're trying to do what we can and gather as much evidence. All right, we might not get something right away. Okay, but then eventually, like an hour or two after, like, yeah, we need to say something. Like, you're right, everybody has a phone, and it's a small community, people talk. Like, people knew what was going on and we were not saying anything. I had an issue with that. I raised it up. I said, guys, it's unacceptable. The mayor contacted me, Chris, what's going on here? You need to say something. I'm like, yes, Mr. Mayor, like, working on it. Another factor on this is that once there's a murder, there's a different unit that takes over. It's major crime unit. They're the pros of this.
I know, everyone's speaking from many times.
What's that?
I heard this lip service on speaking from many times. So do you need like to go get this guy for you, or should we?
No, please don't do that. Please don't do that.
We're set up, we're done.
I'm asking you to trust me. I'm asking you to trust me. That's what I'm asking. So I understand your frustrations. We need to cross our T's and dot our I's, and that's what we're doing. The investigation is going well. I know it's frustrating. I wish I could tell you more. I wish we could have a way better conversation about it. Probably the next town hall I'll have, we'll have some conclusion on this, and I'll be able to explain in a lot more details what happened. You will be able to understand. Unfortunately, right now, please trust me, and no, don't go get him. Like, if it's, yeah, that would.
Well, would you rather wait so that he doesn't have to cross these eyes, catch him, put him away, and then he gets out on a stupid loophole?
Yeah. I really sympathize with him because it's difficult. It's the top that we're dealing with. It affects families. It's tough. It's tough. All I'm asking is to trust me on this one. Yes.
They're followed for 2 blocks by citizens saying, put that down, hold that, everything else. You keep going, they got all the cops, they're like, yeah, go ahead.
You're right. Now, you're right. So I can give you some stuff. So in our, so what we call annual performance plan. So basically every year we have to set up a plan on areas where we're going to focus our attention to improve on our service delivery. So it's what I'm saying here. It's not the only thing we're doing. It's areas that we will focus to improve on our service delivery. So if I look at our annual performance plan, okay, we have 3 priorities. The first one is community contact. Okay, and so this is kind of part of it, but that's not really what you want to hear. You want to hear about police work. I get that. So the other one is crime reduction. So for crime reduction, looking at the statistics that we had last year, the rise in break and enter, we decided to address break and enter. Well, we've reduced it so far. What was the number that I said? Break and enter, 57%. Not too bad. Not too bad, right? Like, I mean, we decided to focus on something and we were able to tackle it and address it, and we got good results. All right. So now, beside that, right now happening, there's thefts of motor vehicles. So what have we done? So we started a warrant roundup last week. In 1 week, we caught 15 people. Oh, probably the majority, but I have no control over that, right? Like I don't control that part.
I didn't even know there's COP or the citizens on patrol till just today.
Okay, well, so this is what's happening too with COVID. It did not allow us to have that communication with the population. So it's a big lack in like the police service because we have to have those talks. Okay, but they have a website. Would you guys have a Facebook page? Like, they do their best to try to communicate that. But the best is to face and us talking to you and telling that those things are happening. Absolutely. But yeah, so.
It seems like when something happens in this town, we got some little task force on there, people checking door handles. I know where they're at.
Oh yeah.
Every step of the way.
Yep.
So why don't we try to
We do.
You guys have the same technology, right? So why can't, oh, there are 10 coaches that jump 11, oh, and 6, oh, they can't. Well, there's nobody stopping the traffic.
We do know where they are. So a few things. We cannot be on their butt 24/7. It's just impossible. Like we have other calls for service. We have to provide service throughout the community here in the county. So we cannot be on their butt 24/7. All right. When we know that they're out there, yes, sometimes we are on their butt, but they know, so they go and they hide and they stop. Or just walking around trying a door handle, I can't arrest someone just for that. We know what he wants to do, but what's broken on the car? Like, I get it. I have to play within the rules that are given to me, and sometimes they're tough. They're tough.
So you guys can't do anything either, right? They're getting let out the same day they're arrested on the weekend. What can you do on the chain? Like if you're looking at it, we can't do anything, obviously.
So what I can do is basically next time they offend, rearrest, and then eventually what I can do is eventually if there's too many cases or whatnot, we can ask to remand the person. We can ask to keep them in jail until they go to court, but it's out of our hands. We're only the enforcement arm, right? We're only the one putting the cuffs. Everybody kind of part of the judicial system that decide if they stay in jail or not, if we, remand people or not. These are other people that make those decisions. Trust me, we're frustrated about it too.
I'm wondering if you see somebody committing a crime.
Yes.
Look up the citizen's arrest, if yes or no, and how do you do it?
So there are provisions in the criminal code that says that if you witness an indictable offense, so an indictable offense is basically a more serious crime, all right? you can detain someone until the police comes. Now, my advice to you, no, not worth the risk. Yeah.
What can we do? It has to be an indictable offense or?
It has to be an indictable offense. You can detain someone. You can only use as much force as necessary to detain the person. So let's put it this way. Canada as a country does not like at all when citizens take care of business in terms of justice themselves. Does not like that at all. There's too many cases where people, I'll give you an example. I can tell you the area, it's Drayton Valley area. Gentleman goes, steal a quad. As he's driving away, the owner of the home, of the quad, comes out, he had a rifle, used the butt right in the face. Guy falls off the quad, and he tunes him in a little bit. Well, guess who ended up in trouble? The quad owner. That's how Canada is set up. I have no control over this, but we are very, in this country, we are very reluctant to have the citizen kind of administer the justice.
Just protect critical.
Yeah.
So what happens if someone comes into my home? What the person
As much as necessary.
as much as necessary.
Yes.
So you can use the force if necessary.
Well, you just said that he's coming in your house. If that's all he's doing, no.
But if it's my home,
Well, that's a different story now, right? Like as much as necessary. Okay. So,
gun or no gun, and I killed a guy that's threatening my family, I go to jail. Right?
so that's why I would say to start to think about doing our own justice is probably not the right thing, because so I'm a police officer, I'm allowed to carry a firearm, I'm allowed to use lethal force, but I have to follow a lot of very strict rules of engagement before I use that. I cannot use this if they don't do that, or I cannot move to that step if they don't reach that threshold, kind of thing. All right. We're not expecting you to have that training, but you're not allowed either to just shoot someone that walks into your house because you were scared, right? Because it's too much force to what was necessary here. If you beat him to death, you just killed him, right? That's probably too much force, right? So now we can, what if this, like, well, what if he comes in, he has a knife, he runs at me, he says he wants to kill me, like, we can what if all this. I get it, but what I can tell you is use as less force as necessary, and don't even put yourself into that situation. If it's a matter, and I'll say, if you're in your house and someone walks in and you're the lone occupant, my suggestion is to leave and call us. Yeah, he might steal your TV. He might steal a TV. It's the way it's set up. Yes.
On regular shift during the day, how many officers are on?
Depends. We don't go below 3, and you can have up to about 6. It really depends. Sometimes we. What's that?
I understand your guys' standard high, but a lot of that's whatnot, because basically the justice system is failing. Very much respect people. You have a job that a lot of people do.
Thank you.
But it is the justice system. And the problem with the justice system is it's people, especially now, and it's frustrated. It's not the point that they are thinking whether they are like it or whether they don't. It's not happening. And unfortunately, somebody's hurt with somebody.
So let's try to prevent that.
Like that's basically where we're at.
And let's try to prevent that, because you seem like a really nice guy. I'll tell you why. You're coming here, you're concerned, and you're telling me you're concerned. That means a lot about you. That says a lot about you. So I don't want you to be in trouble. Like, I would hate to see someone who cares about his community like you, just because he cares about his community, do something that would get him in trouble, right? You see where I'm going with this? Like, I personally don't know you, but you probably have a family and this and that, and they need you. So let's not get there. Let's work together though. Like, yes, come and tell me, hey, this is not working, Chris. We need to do something about that. Absolutely. All right, what can we do? We'll look at the tools that we have Should we switch our patrols? Should we have some surveillance done on someone? Absolutely, we can do those things. Sometimes we're successful, sometimes we're not. I'll tell you one thing, once we start to be in someone's faces, they change their behavior, they move, we arrest them, something happens, right? So we just need to do it. And sometimes we need you to help us to tell us where to do it. So. What's that? Sorry, I can't hear you. Sorry, didn't.
You show up at their house, citizens show up in their house.
Oh, yeah. Again, that falls into where like we have to be careful as to like what we're doing. Everybody has rights, right? Like now all of a sudden there's like 5-6 people get on their lawn and disturb their peace. Now it's those people that are causing the problems. I hear you guys. I understand. I know. I'll tell you what, I'm happy you're saying it because I cannot say it.
Have some judges there in January for your next meeting.
But doesn't it go farther than that? I think we're all really like smarter people than that. I think we're all frustrated about the crime that's going on in our town, and we're all angry. But I think our RCMP members get the brunt end of the crap here, and I think that it's not fair. If something was happening to me, the first person I'm going to call is not you, sir. I'm sorry. I think you're probably a wonderful man. I'm going to call him. Because he's going to be the one that's going to come there. He's the one we're going to hope is going to come there. He's asking you to trust him. And we are people who are frustrated. And I get you probably know a lot more than 90% of the people in this hall about what happened. And I totally understand how grief is grasping a hold of it. But by you stepping in and doing something is letting him get away with what he's done. That's exactly what you're going to do. Or you'll what? Kill him, and then where are you and your family? The same place his family is. Same place Cordell's family is. And what happened? Nothing.
Jeopardizing investigation.
Exactly.
That's the reason why right now we can't say much. Can I just take a pause and see if there's any questions on Facebook?
Yeah, for sure. We have about 150 people watching on Facebook right now. There have been a few questions. A lot have been asked here already.
Okay.
But there was one about speed in town. The roundabout by the hospital is incredibly dangerous. Is there anything that we can do to make that area safer? Perhaps traffic cameras or more patrols?
Okay, so speeding in town and the roundabouts. So it comes up on a regular basis. We do patrol there. You know, I don't want to say on a regular basis now. Don't ask me how many times we go per day or whatnot. I wouldn't be able to tell you. I know I have sent police cars there from time to time to watch the intersection. I know every time we're there, magically, everybody knows how to drive and everybody's recognized the speed limit, right? So it's kind of hard for us to be able to gauge this. In terms of photo radar in that area, that's something that could probably be discussed the next time we talk about it. I know the town is looking after that program. It's certainly something I can bring up. And there's Jim here who's from the town that is making notes right now. So, you know, absolutely. Speeding is always a difficult problem to address in a sense that it's pretty easy. When we're there, everything works. We catch one or two. But then after that, as soon as we leave, the bad habits come back. But thank you for that question. We are in our patrols asking the members to start writing tickets and enforce a little bit more traffic safety rules for that reason, because it's also part of our mandate.
I think there was also a question in regards to the Knighton Junction area and what we can do to increase patrols and the presence out there.
Okay, so Knighton Junction, so it's part of the county. What we're doing, so it's part of our patrolling. So what the members are required to do is to basically drive around, between calls, town, county and whatnot, and go into those locations that, we have maybe less time to go, locations where that we suspect that might be a hotspot for crimes and whatnot. So to give you just an example, Knighton Junction in particular. So if I look at the patrols that we did, for example, in October, so Knighton Junction itself, members reported to me that they were there 5 times in October. So someone said, well, that's not a lot. No, but not a lot happened in Knighton Junction either, right? Like I have to be careful on how I distribute my resources. I can have 3 cars patrolling there nonstop, but then what are we going to have in town? What are we going to have in other parts of the county? So, but we're still there. The month before we were there 4 times. The month before we were there. Junction. Do I have any stats on it? Nope, I don't have any stats on that one. So, nope, sorry. In August we were there 6 times. So we do go. Now, if there are specific concerns in regards to what's happening in Knighton Junction, because I'm not here claiming that nothing is happening, please call us. Let us know. That's how we can decide if we should be there a little bit more or a little bit less. Any other questions from Facebook?
No, mostly that, the others have been asked.
Okay. Yes.
Can I just also add to that? Citizens on Patrol does go out to Knighton, to Piers, to Marlborough, Miller Lake. That's on the way. And we have gone out to rodeo. We go to grad parties when we hear about the grad parties because we want to make sure everybody gets to picnic. And oh yeah, Hot Chavis Trailer Park. Pinedale Estates, we go to the other areas because we know that the members are often dealing with other items. We have radios, we are in direct contact with them. And so if we can go and just be a parameter around, say, a domestic disturbance of some sort, we do that, but we try to make sure to get to the outlying areas. Again, just to be another set of headlights watching what they can't watch all the time.
Yes.
Yeah, and Chris, everybody that owns it should give a file number, should they not?
If they, so we don't automatically give it to them, but yes, if they ask for it, we can.
Nice to fall back on.
Yeah.
And another thing, I was at a meeting like this in Evansburg.
Yep.
And what they brought up was 30% of the criminals were doing 70% of the crime.
Yeah.
What is your stats here, do you know?
Yeah, so there's like that universal rule of 80-20. So that's about in line with it. Is it 30? Is it 20% versus? Yes, that's about right.
And
Yeah.
when they go to jail, everything quiets down, they come out of
Absolutely.
jail.
So that's why we're seeing a decrease in break and enter right now, because the people that we have identified last year, they're not active for whatever reason, which I'm happy with, but that's why we saw a big decrease.
Even though they get fed better than the people on the outside.
That's yes. But back to the lady's comment there, like what am I doing to earn your trust? So just quick numbers like this. So proactive patrolling. All right. So if I look at, I'll say, for example, during the summertime, July, well, in town, the members reported to me 122 patrols that they did, like between calls and whatnot. Okay. During these patrols, well, this is self-generated. We executed 3 warrants on people. We wrote 18 tickets. 3 roadside demands were done. So, checking for alcohol when you're driving. All right. We located a break and enter in progress, and the shelter pods were being checked. All right. In the county, we were there a little less. We were there about only 33 times. And this recovered, okay, we found stolen plate, we recovered stolen property. And then we arrested a few people for breach, and then we checked on some campers. August, 141 patrol in town, all right? So that resulted in 5 warrants being executed, 2 roadside checks for impaired drivers, 17 tickets. In the county, 72 patrols, all right? Again, that's monitoring traffic construction zone. We executed 1 warrant. 5 tickets were written, 2 roadside checks were done. So All these are things that we're doing between calls to try to have as much as an impact on the community, as much as a presence in the community, and catch stuff on our own. So people that are on warrant that we caught during that time, maybe they will not do something. I hope that they will not do another crime or that they will change their behavior. So that's what we're doing. To trust me, when we just started the Warrant Roundup, we realized that the vehicles were being stolen in town. So we started the Warrant Roundup. Kevin organized that. Within a week, we got about what, like 10 to 15, between 10 to 15. Like, it's amazing. Like, the members here are working hard. They're doing their best. And don't get me wrong, I'm not saying that we have it right all the time, but we're really working hard to have it wrong as less as possible. And if we have it wrong, please let us know.
Due to some of these calls, could you touch base on the priority system?
So it's more of a dispatch thing. Anything that is a crime against a person in progress, that's a priority number one. We will be dispatched this as soon as possible, and it will truncate anything else. Then you will have your property crime. If it's in progress, then it's kind of a priority 2. But if it's not, then it falls into priority 3 and then priority 4. That's basically the rule of thumb here on how it works. But this is through our dispatch. They're the one that are calling the shots on what's a priority or not. Yes.
And I sort of hate to revisit it, but back to the issue that we had on Main Street.
Yes.
Just understanding crisis management. Generally, all crises occur in the same fashion time and time again. And the number one problem in a crisis is a shortage of information.
Yes.
And I just feel that you guys didn't control the narrative that you should have. That would have made a lot, anyone on Main Street after they would just had, you know what, we rather than make your time divisions, we're fine. Like, just something.
Oh.
That would have just made things so much
Doug?
easier, knowing that it was under control. And then it stops all the speculation and say, you know what, tomorrow at noon, we're going to bring you an update. So now you're not having to worry, you're waiting till noon. None of them Googling to see about it and then realizing that the 3 murders that have been happened 3 years ago. You know, that kind of impact that was going on, and all the rumors, that starts from that stories of information.
Doug, you nailed it on the head, and that was my frustration. And I will share with you that some members of the detachment were not happy with me because I was like, I need the press release now. But I could not do one myself because it was controlled by major crime and they took 22 hours. I was highly disappointed. All right. The town was highly disappointed, rightly so, because they wanted to know as well. And they were in contact with me, what's going on, and my hands were tied. That one is on us, it's on the RCMP, it's on nobody else. I understand your frustration, I understand your frustration. I was frustrated as well about it. And you're right, we should have had something within, shortly after, okay, an incident happened, someone got injured, we are on it, major crime units coming down. At least to reassure everybody. I get it that that's not a lot, doesn't say a lot, but at least just to say, hey guys, like, we have your back. I agree.
So did you guys learn anything? So next time it happens, the same thing, or did something change?
So if you leave it to me, yes, it would change, but it's the same major crime unit that will come next time. Hopefully they'll never be next time, but it'll be the same unit. And I'll be honest with you, the RCMP is a bit of a Titanic sometimes on some stuff. It turns, but wow, it's slow. I have to be honest, like I'm not, I'm not sure it could that one. But was I disappointed? Yes. And even that made me realize we need to have a little bit more media release on a regular basis on who we arrest and what's happening. So I'm trying to work with my front counter staff that every time we have someone charged, if it's something we can disclose, to have a little bit more in the news so you guys know what's going on. Like, I realize that. We're realizing that at the office. Absolutely.
Just one question that's been asked a few times in relation to that. Are the citizens in any danger from this guy still being at large?
So what I can say here is your safety, in my opinion, is the same as before and after the incident. All right. Now, I cannot stand here and make the promise that nothing will ever happen, but I would say, Edson, in terms of going about your business day to day and whatnot, my advice to you is the same before and after. I just can't say more than that.
So in your opinion, you said that on the bridge, you have 3 to 6 officers up there.
Yes,
For this whole area.
yes,
You find that sufficient enough?
yes. When we have 3, like sometimes we chase our tails, like, you know, but for the numbers of calls we're getting, the type of calls we're getting, we're adequately staffed. I'll have to be honest, the town of Edson is paying for 17 members of this detachment. They're doing their part. They're doing their part. If you want to give me another 5, 6 members, I'll take them, right? Like the more the merrier. But if you look at resources, you know, how it costs to have another police officers and the results we're getting, we're properly staffed. The days that we only have 3 working, they're not ideal, but it works the odd time. So when we have 6, we have a little bit more flexibility, right? But no, we're properly staffed.
Are you staffed with 7 people?
Yeah, so yeah, I'm fully staffed. I have 2 that are on special leaves for different reasons, but it's not affecting the service delivery. So yeah, no.
You got 3 officers on every shift, 3 to 6 on every shift, like night shift, day shift?
Yeah, so basically we have a minimum of 3, so we're not going to go lower than 3. So and
There's always 3 cops on night shift.
yes, correct. Well, so for the majority of the night, eventually when it gets later at night, you might end up with just 2 because it's towards the end of the shift. But like for the majority of the coverage for your shift, yes, it's 3.
You think that maybe you should have more of that night? These, yeah, 6 o'clock. Maybe they know when you guys.
Yeah. Oh, they probably know. Some probably know. You know what? It's a conversation we had before at the detachment. Should we sometime from time to time, you know, shuffle stuff around and have some members patrolling early in the morning? So the short answer is yes. Maybe we should. Maybe we should look at that. Absolutely. Yeah. No, that's that. We've thought about that too. Yeah. Yes.
Focus on the spots where the crime happens, or they're just everywhere.
So we try to. So for example, for the last 2 months, so October and September, I just plotted on a map to see where vehicles were stolen. And there was not like an area where it's like, oh, wow, like there's a lot of dots. It was pretty much all over the town. It seemed like I call it the Highway 16 corridor. So basically 1st Avenue to 6th Avenue seems to be like an area which is busiest. So that's where I don't want to say just focused on, but we try or like to be there on the regular basis. But like I can't stand here and tell you, oh yeah, like Hillendale, oh wow, hot spot for stolen vehicles. Like there's no real area where I can put my finger on it and say that's a problem area.
Because like I manage 2 apartment buildings on 56th.
Okay.
And those punks are always in our alley all the time.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
But I never see the cops patrol them.
Okay. Well, yeah. So either 2 things, they're doing a good job at being sneaky, or we need to patrol more. So no. Okay. Well, it's good to know.
And I have cameras installed all over there. And another thing for the mayor as well, like it's almost 2022. Have you ever thought of like using technology, having like cameras on poles? What's going on?
Maybe we do.
You do.
Maybe we do.
Yeah, like it would be a great idea. See it in other cities or I don't know what towns. It'd be great to have cameras.
What apartment building?
I manage Christian and Carolyn on 56.
Oh,
Right by
okay.
the Teds.
Okay, yeah.
So Chris, I'm gonna address a few things. So Staff Sergeant Delisle can't say some things I'm sure he would like to say. So we have many conversations. The problem that we have in our society today is repeat offenders that commit a crime and they're out before the paper is even dry. Before Staff Sergeant Delisle arrived, Staff Sergeant King did a presentation, and at that town hall, he provided information. One offender had 90 charges against him here in our community, and they caught him red-handed, brought him to cells, processed his paperwork, and the justice of the peace kicked him out the door. That's a problem, because these guys are always out there chasing the same people over and over again. I can't change that. He can't change that. You can't change that. The only people that can change that is our federal government and our judges. And I've always said this, if our judges had to be elected, maybe we get some different results, because then they would be held accountable. But unfortunately, that's not how our system works. So I encourage you, if you're upset about repeat offenders, if you're upset about crime and the revolving door of the justice system, write your MP, talk to your MP. He's in opposition right now, but I know he will bring those concerns forward to the federal government. Unfortunately, we have a federal government that doesn't want to deal with these sorts of issues, but I think that's where the real, that's my opinion. But we need to have a stronger justice system. We also need to deal with the root causes of crime. Now, you bring an interesting point about cameras. We do have cameras on Main Street. They are old. I think we put them up about 10 years ago. But that is something that we can look at possibly doing with our public safety initiative, to maybe have some cameras that move around, so we have footage in different areas where we know that there's problems. And we work closely with the detachment on strategic priorities as well. So we also, our peace officers now have vehicles that looks very similar to RCMP units. They have level 1 status. So they have blue and red flashing lights, and just that visibility in some of our residential neighborhoods will help deter some crime, because criminals don't want to be seen. They want to be hidden. Also encourage property crime. If you have sensors, if you have bright lights in your backyards, on your sheds, that's always helpful as well. Go ahead.
Okay, so I did expected to put like cameras on my house, make sure that we don't have people that are taking our stuff, but we're paying for it.
Okay,
So you
so
wanna talk about that?
yeah, absolutely.
Hi.
So I was wondering how long that subject would take to come up. Thank you, thank you. So homelessness, yep, that's another things that we have to address in Edson. So Edson is a community that, for the size, has probably a larger population of homelessness than the average population. I'm getting there. So a little over average, all right? So they are not people that are coming from everywhere all of a sudden that, hey, found out their spots. They are people from Edson that, for reason X, Y, and Z, ended up in that situation. I just want to throw in there that nobody chooses to be homeless and nobody chooses to have an addiction. So it's a difficult situation for them, therefore difficult for us to manage. So the reason for the shelter pods is that there's a point where we would like to, so I'll talk police-wise, right? Right now it's police talk. So the idea behind the shelter pods was to create a location where we can have some of them, obviously not all of them, because we only have 5 pods, where they can have a secure place to sleep, where instead of being between the doors at the bank or in the hallway in a hotel or something like that, they would have a place to sleep where they're not causing any problems, where they would get the sleep that they need, and the next day would be less disruptive, causing less problems, hopefully causing less of those thefts and whatnot. So the shelter pods came about. Now, again, speaking police-wise, because I'm also a member on the committee on the shelter pods. I also volunteer for that, right? So I wear 2 hats. So now, police-wise, I was thinking that this would also provide a bit of a sense of security for the community. So now we have realized that the second piece of it, we probably missed the boat. You're not the only person that is concerned going to the shelter, to the recycling depot, because all of a sudden the pods, we've tried to have some system to mitigate the fact that they're hiding around, not hiding, hanging around there, that they stick around there. We tried different methods and system, but unfortunately they just like to stay there because that's where they sleep, because they have nowhere else to go. And what it created, it's a bit of a fear because there's an unknown. It's a homeless population. We're not gonna, put our heads in the sand here. Some of them have addiction problems, some of them have mental health issues, and they can be unpredictable sometimes. We all know this. So it creates a bit of a feeling of insecurity. So the location might have not been the most strategic. It was first thought about that, well, they're already there. Why don't we just give them pods so then, problem solved? Well, it created another problem. So that you are a little worried to go to the recycling depot. We are aware of that. And now I can talk about the committee here because I'm a committee member. We are aware and we're looking at solutions to stop that, to prevent that, to actually eliminate the problem. We're talking right now, even moving the pod somewhere else. I don't mind. I don't mind. Timmy's might not like that. So there's always a location, there's always a place that will. So, and that's the difficulty we have. So right now we thought that the recycling depot, because they were already there hanging around at night, would be a good spot. Turns out that maybe a different location would be more strategic, but we are fully aware that wherever we're going to put it, unless it's like right inside my cells, which can't obviously, but wherever we're going to put it, there will always be some sort of a counter reaction to it. Yeah. Yes.
They weren't allowed there before 7 p.m. And if they were, they weren't allowed to go in. Or if they went to a mental health appointment, then they could stay on that.
So if you find a way to prevent them from going there before 7 o'clock, please tell me. We have racked our brains about this, change how we could, let them in and out and this and that. It's becoming a real challenge because they're unmanned, right? It's remotely operated. What's that? Yeah. So we have what we call suspensions, and we suspend some of them from time to time to come. We understand that. It's also a population that struggles. So sometimes they're in crisis and they don't really understand what they're doing or where to go, what to do. So they go to what they know best. Well, I was here last night. Well, I'll go sit there and wait, right? So we really have sometimes to, and I understand where you're coming from. You're thinking rationally. It makes sense what you're saying. But sometimes with that population, you have to think like, how would they think or why are they doing something? And if you apply logic or rationale to it, sometimes it doesn't line up. We've tried, we since the beginning, me being on the pod committee, I says, hey guys, I wear two hats. We can't have them hanging around there. The population will be upset about this. This is where they do their recycling. Like, we're offering a service here. No, we'll try a solution. We'll find a solution. It turned out to be a bigger challenge than what it is. Like, I'll admit it, it turned out to be a way bigger challenge than what it is. So now we're thinking plan B. Okay, where can it go? Today, this morning, we had a meeting, the PUD committee, with the town CEO, Christine, with Bob Beck, the director of protective services, exactly on that subject. What can we do? So we're looking into it.
Question for one. Have you ever approached the government or foundations, whoever, about opening a homeless shelter like Oil Street or something, one of the businesses that get government grant to actually have a person work there? Like, I know my sister-in-law works at a event called and they have they're not allowed to bring trucks in there. There's people actually working there. They have rules after a specific time, don't come in. There's no you students lose your bed. Approach something like that to get them out of the pods or whatever.
Yeah.
Like what the city's doing.
Yeah. So interesting enough, we were in Edmonton last week, and the provincial government announced funding for various initiatives around the province. Edson was not on that list, which was very frustrating for the shelter pod committee for us. One of the biggest challenges is we can detox people in Edson at the hospital. We have doctors willing to do that. We have spaces at the hospital. But if you want to get yourself cleaned up, you have to go to Swan Hills. And I think they only have 2 beds there. First of all, there's a transportation issue. These folks have nobody to go to. They've already burned all the bridges, no way to get there. And many of them want to stay close to home. Like we said, they're from Yellowwood County, they're from Edson, from our general area. So we are pushing, and we've asked the government for assistance for staffing. One of the challenges with shelter pods is they're unmanned. The reason they're unmanned is nobody has the money to pay for it on a municipal level. And we were hoping that we could be able to do this on a volunteer basis. And I can tell you our volunteers, they're strapped. They've worked extremely hard. So we need bodies to help man that, to provide the social assistance, to hopefully get them into better outcomes. We've had a tour of the wellness center at the hospital. For those that are not aware, at the hospital, there was a building built for the physicians. They are not moving into that facility. So it's basically empty. It's 15,000 square feet, which would make a great facility for addictions treatment. We have no spaces in Hinton, Jasper, Drayton Valley, or Whiteport. So this could be something where we're putting people on to a path of success. We also need transitional housing. Pods are there for an emergency basis. We don't want that turning into permanent housing. We know there's an issue with congregation at the recycling depot. I'm a person that likes to recycle at night. I get all my stuff. I don't go there anymore because I have the same concerns. You don't know who you're going to run into. So I know that. So we're trying to find a solution on where to put it that's going to work. Nobody wants that next to them though, right? Because you have certain elements that can be brought into it. So we are working on that. We are hearing those concerns. I know that some folks say, well, why are you spending, you spend $64,000 of taxpayer dollars on these pods. You're giving them a place to stay. And then they're going and they're stealing from people. Well, they were stealing before. They were also sleeping in people's sheds. We were also getting calls from apartment buildings, banks, because they're sleeping in the doors. They were sleeping out at the landfill. We had a fire that caused hundreds of thousands of dollars of damage. So it's trying to mitigate that. When they go to the ER, that's thousands upon thousands of taxpayer dollars because they have frozen toes and those sorts of things. So we're just trying to manage the situation right now. But to your question, we are continuing lobbying the provincial government and the federal government for funds. Minister Luan was here. I spoke to his chief of staff last week, or his press secretary last week, and we're going to continue those conversations because we do need supports. People have made the comment of, we have so many homeless in our community right now, and it's very visible. The fact is that many of these people were couch surfing before, or they were housed in a rental unit. Because of the way the economy is right now, a lot of them got kicked out, and that pushed them out onto the streets. Some come from domestic situations. Some of the folks, I think, and Chris, correct me if I'm wrong, they're younger individuals that may have some challenges from home. So we're trying our best, and I encourage you to help us with that by writing your MLA and writing your MP, supporting us and trying to get some additional supports for our community, because it is a major challenge and it's very complex.
Thank you very much. The pods have brought a spotlight on the problem, so that's why it's a little bit more visible. And the location is where a service is being offered. And in hindsight, maybe we should have seen that coming. We thought we would have been able to control it. Maybe the location is not ideal. You're bringing a really good point. Being on the committee and being part of the pods, yeah, there's some that are stealing, but some that don't. There's people there that are just unfortunate. They struck out and they got the bad end of the stick, and now they're on the street. So it's an effort to give them at least a place where they won't die when it's more -30, right? So they don't die outside freezing. That's all we're trying to give them. It's just the roof, emergency, and but yeah, it comes with a lot of side issues with it. I understand. I'll take your question, and then if there's any question, no question on Facebook. Okay, yes, go ahead, sir.
The call, was it like a 24/7, 24/8 or limited time?
So the best way to get a hold of us is either report a problem on the town of Edson website or the app for after hours. You could also leave a message phone number 3178. 3178 firewall. That's where we're based out of. Leave a message. You can leave a message there, or you can also call the dispatch, and they will dispatch the issue to us via email. We're going to get to the morning, but we were.
Somebody take the call and get to them,
Yes,
or get back to me in the same night.
probably not, because we're working days right now.
Okay, I'm just curious what the call was.
Sure. But the best way is to use the feature on the app to report a problem.
You have a question, sir?
No, the question, I have something to say. I lived here for 12 years. Last year, I noticed a big difference in policing, and the policemen are more polite people.
Good to know.
I had heart surgery. My lady had lung cancer. We're out trying to shovel stone. I from the town, they said they got nobody to help. Seniors. I phoned in, they said, yeah, I'm going you right back. Going back. Oh, we have a 12-year-old kid. I said, is it covered by compensation? No, I said, I don't want him on my property. We go out, we're trying to shovel stone. This young police officer drives by. Stops and he jumps. I said, can I help you? So to me, that was over and above the call of duty.
I agree.
You know, he didn't learn that. He didn't learn that at police academy. He learned it at home and his supervision. I mean, unfortunately, there's a very, very, very good supervision. There was a shit, pardon my opinion.
Well, thank you. And would you happen to know the name of the officer? Because I will
No, I
certainly
didn't.
know.
I was so shocked. I said, no, we were almost done. Well, he said, I'm glad to help you. He could see we're struggling with it. Because I just come out of heart surgery, and she just came out of lung surgery. He stopped there, it's pleasant, very pleasant.
Well, thank you very much
To me,
for letting me know.
To me, that's never ever happened. I'm a consultant, I've lived in lots of towns in Alberta and Manitoba and Saskatchewan. I've never ever had that happen, okay? And then there's no way, the problems of Edson are no different than Manitoba, Saskatchewan, or
Fair.
they're all the same problems.
Fair.
It's just how they're handled, that's all.
Fair. And to that, the concerns that you have are fair as well. Like I've heard that in all the communities I've worked. Like you guys are raising up good points, and yep, we need to work together. And today I'm giving a certain set of rules I have to play with. All right, I'll play with those, and let's all together try to push that big wheel and make the best out of it and reduce our crime and put as many bad people away in jail. Absolutely.
Young officer lives behind us on Fifth Avenue. Walks by, oh, if something I can help you with, you know, stays up, I'm gonna get sick of book, it's not at all. But I have noticed such a difference in morale.
Well, that's good. Thank you for sharing it. I will certainly pass the word to the members.
Like I said, over to the other wall.
Good.
I'm talking about radar, there's a big sign at Jerry Ford, radar ahead. What's that up?
You'll have to go talk to them. It's their property and yeah, it's their property. Yeah, it's their property. Yeah. Yes.
What are the thoughts of the province taking over the RCMP versus the town?
You want my opinion on this?
Yeah.
You probably know the answer, right? So yes, the province is working at the possibility to have their own police force. I work for the RCMP, so I'll preach for my outfit, right? I can tell you that we are doing our best to provide the best service ever for the population of Alberta. We are, unfortunately with COVID, it's difficult to have those kind of meetings, but it was my practice to have like 3 a year, my previous detachment, to get in touch about what's going on, this and that, addressing concerns that are being brought up. Absolutely. I can tell you that that's right. Like we're federal police officers. We have a contract with the province and then a contract with the town, but I'm in consultation with the mayor, with the CAO on a regular basis about what's going on here to fix the problem here, to address the situation and issues here. So the province can look at whatever they want, but I think you're getting a really good police service through the RCMP. That's my humble opinion. So it's 8:30. Unless there's other questions, I would like to wrap up the evening. And before I finish, I brought with me some pamphlet. It's what we call SEPTA. Basically, it's crime prevention through environmental design. So it's based on studies. It's how you can basically set up the appearance of your house or your business and help preventing crime. So if you want to have a pamphlet and see what it looks like, please help yourself. There's also some pamphlet about for when you remove all the valuables from your vehicle, to leave in your vehicle to show bad guys to go pick another car. And I have some business card as well. So please help yourself to the pamphlets. And if there's no other questions, I'll just check with Facebook in case we're good. I will thank you all for coming. Very interesting, very dynamic discussion here. And hopefully looking forward to see you again in about 3-4 months when it's time to talk about policing priorities again.
So I just want to thank everybody for taking the time here today to come out and share your concerns. One thing I do know about Staff Sergeant Delisle, his phone is always open. So if you have any concerns, if you contact the police and you're not happy with the service that you've received, or there's some sort of issue, please reach out to him. His cards are there and he will take your call and he will listen and look into your concern. And let's just hear a big round of applause for Sergeant Delisle. We intend to have these town halls on a regular basis.
Absolutely.
So we'll probably have another one, I would say, in the spring, towards the summer. For those in the county, you said January for the ones in the county. And I just have to once again encourage you all to report crime or anything you see in your neighborhoods. It really helps the police. Sometimes if they can't respond, they do let the COPers know, and they do conduct patrols in those neighborhoods. So thank you very much.
Thank you.